Hello, I'm Natasha Hussein, and this is Newsfeed, currently not facing a ban in the United States. But before we discuss the fate of TikTok, there is another story looming large stateside. At Columbia University, a small student protest in solidarity with Gaza has turned into a nationwide movement across the U.S. in just the span of a week. Many draw parallels with anti-Vietnam War demonstrations in 1968, which famously also began on the Columbia campus. Students are calling authorities to account and have brought the campus to a standstill. Sari takes a look at how things escalated to this point.
Universities known for being centers of free expression have been overshadowed by unrest in the US this week, after a student protest on the Columbia campus turned into a nationwide free speech scandal. Support for the protests spread beyond Columbia when more than 100 students were arrested last week for camping out on its lawn to protest their university's ties to Israel. The arrests quickly turned the protest into a much larger movement across campuses nationwide, with students setting up encampments and occupying buildings.
The university suspended these students who were engaging in peaceful protest within their own campus, not obstructing anyone, not hurting anybody, suspended these students so that the massive numbers of NYPD that the university requested could arrest these students. Let's think for a moment about the level of harm that this university is inflicting upon the students that it is entrusted to take care of. Not only is suspending students so that they can be arrested for trespassing so violent on its own, suspension also has so many ramifications.
It wasn't just the students. Even Columbia's faculty members staged a walkout following the arrests.
Is this what it means to be an educational institution?
The university's president, Dr. Manoush Shafiq, is facing heat from both sides of the aisle. She was grilled by Congress a day before the protests at a hearing investigating anti-Semitism at prestigious colleges. A week later, House Republicans are demanding her resignation for failing to protect the safety of Jewish students. Several politicians and even the White House have called the protests anti-Semitic, despite the involvement of Jewish students in the movement.
This is dangerous. This is not free expression. This is not First Amendment. They are threatening, intimidating, saying that they will take violence upon Jewish students. We met with Jewish students who are in fear. They can't come on campus. They can't study for their final exams. This affects everybody's lives, and it affects the image that we portray to the world. This is not who we are as Americans.
Meanwhile, the organizers reject these claims and say such actions belong to inflammatory individuals who are not representative of them. Democratic Representative Ilhan Omar, whose daughter was suspended from Columbia's Barnard College, says the protests were deliberately made to look bad, so they could be shut down. She says the students' demands are clear, and that officials and media taking the situation out of context are only fueling the fire. Following a week of crisis and growing criticism of Columbia's administration, Dr. Shafiq announced the university is going to work on a hybrid remote basis until the end of the spring semester to de-escalate the situation. Despite the aggressive response from universities, law enforcement, and even the US government, support for the protests continues, increasing the growing rift between institutions and the youth determined to use their voice.
Meanwhile, Google has fired 20 more employees over protests against the company's cloud contract with Israel. This brings the total number of staff given the boot in the past week to 50, as the tech company continues to stamp out what it deems as dissent. The sticking point is Project Nimbus, a hefty $1.2 billion contract signed in 2021 between Google, Amazon, and Tel Aviv to provide cloud computing and artificial intelligence services to the Israeli government and military. Critics within the tech firm fear that this technology is being used against Palestinians in Gaza, which led to the sit-in protests by the group No Tech for Apartheid at Google offices in New York and California. The group has been actively campaigning against the contract with Israel since 2021, and this week No Tech for Apartheid and the fired workers shared what they went through in a Zoom meeting.
The Israeli state is enabling the world's first AI-powered genocide. Israeli military is using artificial intelligence to target and assassinate Palestinians in Gaza. This contract provides powerful cloud computing tools and AI tools directly to the Israeli government and military.
Google workers have been advocating against Nimbus for years. We have tried escalating through the proper channels.
Google has done nothing when these things were brought to them over and over again.
I've witnessed several acts of harassment against workers who have been speaking out against and raising awareness of Project Nimbus. I couldn't sit back and let Google continue to profit off the oppression of the Palestinian people.
I decided to participate in the sit-in because I could no longer ignore Google's role in the AI-powered genocide in Palestine.
We join and echo the calls of students, faculty, and alumni at Columbia, Yale, and other universities to stand in steadfast solidarity with the people of Palestine.
Google is saying that we were disruptive, that we blocked our colleagues' paths and destroyed property. This really couldn't be further from the truth.
There were some people who continued to sit near us throughout the chants and just did their work like we weren't there. There was also a vending machine behind us that people were still able to and frequently did access. If people wanted to ignore us, they did. If people wanted to access their work, they did. It wasn't a problem. That didn't stop Google from firing people who had left when asked. And even some people who had just stopped by to chat were also fired.
This flagrant act of retaliation was indiscriminate, unjust, and wrong.
I wake up every day afraid that I will hear horrifying news from Gaza, where more than 1 million refugees are concentrated in Rafah, and people are still suffering from famine, water shortage, and the constant threat of bombardment and attack.
I want to be able to sleep at night, knowing that our tools, the tools that I helped create, are being used morally and responsibly. I want to be able to go to bed with the knowledge that I helped make the world a better place. Project Nimbus and many other contracts like it that Google is pursuing and participating in do the exact opposite.
We've seen that Google would rather fire and arrest its workers, the people who build their technology, who make their company work, rather than speak to us about our concerns.
I remain committed to this movement and to the larger movement for Palestinian liberation.
And it will not stop us from continuing to organize and fight for the company to drop Project Nimbus.
And we're going to stop Google's aid of this genocide.
The U.S. Senate has thrown down the gauntlet, TikTok's Chinese parent company ByteDance, to sell the app or be banned in America. The bill is now expected to be signed by President Joe Biden and will then become law. Andy is in D.C. and says there's mounting objection from TikTokers, many of whom are prepared to fight to save the popular app.
The clock is ticking on TikTok now that the U.S. Congress has passed legislation ordering that its Chinese parent company either sell off the app within the next 9 months or the app disappears here in America. Critics of TikTok say it's not just what TikTok sucks out of its 170 million users, namely their personal information, which TikTok denies, but what it puts into their brains, namely dangerous, addictive content. Supporters of TikTok say that the U.S. government has long criticized other nations for trying to crack down on social media. And on social media, lots of criticism of this potential ban. One poster writing that if America can ban TikTok now, then X is next. Another one writing that with all the world's problems, all the military aid going to Ukraine and Israel, an active genocide, why should TikTok be a concern for Washington in this moment?
As you know, I'm on the ballot in November in Ohio House of Representatives. I'm a Democrat. I was privy to information yesterday, which is the actual reason that the parties have come together, surprisingly, on the TikTok ban. And here it is. Corporate money cannot influence TikTokers like myself. Corporate money can't control my message. And the big players, the senators, the U.S. senators, the U.S. House of Representatives, those are the people that are setting the laws of the land which benefit corporations. The real reason is those big money donors don't want freedom of speech.
Make no mistake, this is a ban on TikTok and a ban on you and your voice. It's obviously a disappointing moment, but it does not need to be a defining one. It's actually ironic because the freedom of expression on TikTok reflects the same American values that make the United States a beacon of freedom. Rest assured, we aren't going anywhere. We are confident and we will keep fighting for your rights in the courts. The facts and the Constitution are on our side, and we expect to prevail again.
and former President Donald Trump, saying that he's very much against this ban and that all Americans should blame President Biden if it happens. But this is a completely of a reversal for Donald Trump, who as president actually supported the ban on TikTok. But if he is reelected president, then he could have an active role in undoing this legislation and keeping TikTok alive.
Tesla's had a bumpy ride so far this year. Its profits fell 55% in the first quarter due to falling sales. Profits slumped to $1.1 billion year on year, reinforcing the belief that the company led by Elon Musk has lost ground in the electric vehicle market. Revenue dropped 9% to $21.3 billion, and Tesla recently was forced to reduce its prices globally in an attempt to offset falling sales amid an intensifying price war with rival manufacturers. The dismal earnings cap off a chaotic few days for Tesla. Last week, the car maker announced it's laying off 10% of its workforce, meaning 14,000 employees will be let go. Tesla also issued a recall for its Cybertrucks over safety concerns. In announcing its price cuts, Tesla reassured investors that it's on track to manufacture a cheaper vehicle next year, which could help bolster lagging sales. The company's share price, which has fallen 40% since the start of 2024, surged by around 10% after its earnings were announced. Investors appear to be pleased that a more affordable model is in the works.
Now, the big win from these numbers from Tesla came down to the potential for more affordable vehicles. This was a really critical part of the Tesla earnings release, and we can actually see that on screen right here. We have updated our future vehicle lineup to accelerate the launch of new models ahead of our previously communicated start date in the second half of 2025. And so basically what they're saying here is, hey everyone, look, we heard you that you really value cheaper cars. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to push the current production capacity from about 2.3 million all the way up to about 3 million vehicles.
Here to me is the most worrying number from this company's report, and it is global vehicle inventory. How many days of supply? This figure jumped to 28 days, an 87% increase sequentially. So Tesla, this is a very clear sign that Tesla is struggling to sell its vehicles right now due to the macro environment or due to whatever is happening in the global market. But this to me is a clear sign, this almost doubling of vehicle inventory days outstanding, that the company's demand for the company's products right now is very weak.
In a recent Facebook post by the Central Intelligence Agency, the U.S. spy agency, better known as the CIA, has perplexed netizens in Southeast Asia. This post about food isn't exactly the type of content you'd expect from spooks tasked with protecting U.S. national security. The agency shared some fun facts about Malaysia's national dish, nasi lemak, which is a popular breakfast meal across the region. The post quickly went viral and even prompted a response from Malaysia's Agriculture Ministry, which commented, "Thank you for sharing." And it turns out stuff like this on the CIA's Facebook page is quite normal. It's littered with all sorts of fun facts, like this post on Lebanon's historical town of Byblos. Multi-course meals in Georgia called supras, usually held on special occasions, and Canada's Bay of Fundy with its impressive tidal range and expansive geopark. All of these fun facts are actually from the CIA's World Fact Book, a public resource on what the agency calls basic intelligence on 266 places, which includes travel facts and country profiles. So the CIA's fact box on nasi lemak, a coconut rice dish notorious for being so filling it makes you sleepy, is essentially a primer into more pertinent facts on Malaysia, covering history, government, the people, and economy. And FYI, the CIA drops facts like that online daily, so do check out their Facebook page. And for stuff from Newsfeed, find our shows and interviews on YouTube. See you soon.